I am who you say I am. Imagine if we all walked around believing that 100%, how different this world would be. I love that song. All right, I'm just going to open this up in prayer real quick before we get going on the message. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here tonight with friends to have fun. We all come here tonight with so many different things going on in our lives. Some of us know you and have a flourishing relationship with you. Some of us are still getting to know you and have yet to place our faith in you as our creator and sustainer. As I know you can, please use the words I share tonight to meet us all where we are at and have each of us leave here tonight different than we came. I ask these things in the name of Jesus. Amen. All right, hopefully you guys get the improved version because I had to do this for the middle schoolers earlier. My name is Paul. I'm a 8th grade boys small group leader. I started in kids ministry, about 4 years ago and kind of followed kids up, but I skipped a grade because my son was in one of them and I figured he needed a break from me at least one night a week. First slide here. This is a little bit about me. Sorry about that. So I used to be an accountant, but for the past 15 years, I have been a nurse and started in the emergency room where I saw lots of crazy things and sad things and wild things. I have lots of stories from that time in my life. And then after that, worked in critical care, taking care of really sick patients. And now I take care of patients who their hearts are failing, essentially, and just kind of help them with life. Next slide here shows a picture of me and my wife, Rachel, who I met at my first nursing job. That was like in 2006, and a year later, I proposed to her. I think it was my 29th birthday, actually, when I did. And then a year after that, married, got a house. About 9 months later, had a kid, and then, life started for me. Next picture is a picture from last Father's Day of me and 4 of my kids. We were just leaving, I think it was Thunder Bay, and I was like, hey, let's take a quick picture, Father's Day picture. Not really a big picture guy, and my wife, Rachel, has a love-hate relationship with this picture because she spends a lot of time and effort trying to get pictures of the family and to get a lot of people to look in the same place, smile at the same time, and maybe look a little decent is a challenge. So she loves it because, it's a good picture of us, but every time she sees it, she just gets frustrated. Next, after this picture, I have become a father again, and that is my newest addition, Eden Joy, as you see there. She just turned 6 months, and on Easter, that's one of my wife's pictures that she does one, I think, like every week since she's born, and so we've got lots of pictures. So a lot of people will joke because when you have a bigger family, 5 kids, oh, you got starting 5, for a basketball team, and my nursing career, I met my wife, it was literally the first day of work, and, end up with this beautiful family, which I'm so blessed to have. But more recently, nursing, because of where I work, I was walking down the hall one day, and I met someone you guys all may recognize. I think the video will play for you here.
Hey there, Fox River students. Giannis here, just hanging with my favorite small group leader, Paul. He asked me to give you all a shout out before he shares the latest message from the current series, Break Trail. Hope you all have a great night.
So they wanted me to do a celebrity greeting for you guys, and I don't know any celebrities, or an influencer was the other thing, and as you'll learn soon, I have no social media, so couldn't check either of those off. But I did meet Giannis leaving work one day. That was the photo, and thanks to Justin who kind of edited it, but to get him talking. But I hope there's nobody here that actually believes they just heard from Giannis. There were some pretty obvious things there, maybe that his lips were kind of white. It may have not sounded like him. It might sound like somebody you guys know, I'm sure, and all recognize. You can shout it out if you think you know who it was. He was kind enough to help me with that. So this slide is of obviously Giannis's Instagram account. I think it's Instagram, right? Yes. So there's something on that page that kind of gives that page, its seal of approval. And I just learned this. Like I said, I don't have any social media accounts. Does anyone know what on that page? Blue check. Verified. Yeah, that's the word. Verified. I don't. Some people have told me it's like when you get a certain amount of followers. Yes? You got that many followers? But the whole purpose is so when you go to this, this account that you're hearing from who you think you're hearing from. And so you can kind of trust, you can. It's just some random weirdo that's kind of thinking they're talking on behalf of Giannis, which his account has been hacked. I remember reading that at one point, and he had to apologize for the things that somebody else put on his account. But the whole point of that is, when you trust, when you can trust it, it makes a difference in, the information that you receive from it, that it's, it's valid. So that brings me, the trust brings me to our big idea, that Jesus can be trusted. But before we move on to that, I just want to recap the past few weeks. I think it's really important to remember what we've been learning prior. Excuse me, one second here. Yeah, I think that's dripping water over there. So a few weeks back, Jason shared with us how Jesus can understand our pain, and also that Jason was capable of tearing 2 rotator cuffs at one time, which is pretty impressive. But the point of that was that, Jesus, who was a person, God and man at the same time, kind of a hard concept to understand, but he walked the earth like we do and experienced, far worse things in ways, but he can identify with our pain. I mean, so it's, evident we can trust him because of that. It's not like he's just God up here and, doesn't really get what it's like to be us down here. The following week, I think it was the following week, Luke and Caleb shared with us, I think it was Jesus Shows Us Love. And we learned then that Luke has sweaty hands. Sorry, Luke. And Caleb is pretty creative. I forget, with 3:16, that's what it was. But more accurately, it was that, Jesus doesn't see us the way, or for our failures. We don't, he doesn't look at us and see all the mess that we are. And, that's a way that he shows us love. And then I think it was last week, Nathan followed with Jesus is alive. And, all of our beliefs as Christians hinge on that fact. If he wasn't resurrected, this is kind of a joke. I mean, we're all, being duped. So, and because he is alive, we have overcome death. And we say that, we sing that, but I mean, it's so important to get that fact. I mean, like, there's no more reason to fear it. Next poll here, we're just going to do a quick poll of the room to kind of see our level of trust and untrust. You can obviously see 1 is not at all, 5 totally, and hold the finger up, 1 through 5, and let's just see what each of us thinks. So, can you be trusted? 3s, 5s, 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 lots of 5s. You're trustworthy people. Do you trust others? 0. I saw a 0 actually. So 2s, 3s, 2. So we're trustworthy people, but yet we don't trust others. That's interesting. How trustworthy are your friends? I think we've established that already. 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. So, and we do choose those people, so we have some influence over that. This is a good one. The fast food you eat, how much do you trust that? 0. 1, 1, 1. It depends on which Taco Bell, man. There's certain locations I will not go. This is an interesting one. How about the chair you're sitting in? Did any of you? You're leaning back on it. You have a lot of trust in it. So, but seriously though, did any of you before you sat down today check your chair? You did. So you must have had some problems with chairs in the past. But I mean, the point of this is we operate in this world trusting things and don't a lot of times even realize it. If you've sat on a chair, and it's broken, the first 10 chairs you sat on broke. I mean, I'm probably going to be checking every chair I sit going forward on. So, point of that is it's our experiences that frequently develop our level of trust, for other people, so this kind of determines where we end up on that spectrum. Some of us have experienced horrible things in this world. I personally have had experiences that are far from enjoyable, and that has has an impact on how I operate, how I function. There may be some of you here that haven't struggled much in life. Things have gone pretty smoothly. I mean, not perfect, but not any real big things. And in that scenario, be thankful, man. I mean, that's not normal. This world is broken, and we're going to experience a lot of different things. When I say a broken world, what someone shout out what that means to them? Fallen world, broken world. Do you have any meaning of that? No. So sinful world. So a broken world separated from God, sin. So because of that, we have the experiences we have, and a lot of times we're the source of the hurt for other people. We're the ones that disappoint other people. We see, there's a lot of different, levels of trust and untrust, based on that poll. But thankfully, there is someone who can always be trusted. It's up there. Who never changes and, will never hurt us. And I get, we come here and we may not all be in the same place when it comes to that, or that understanding of God. Some of us are still searching, I'm really not sure if that, I believe that, haven't taken ownership of it, don't have a relationship with Christ. That's exactly why we show up here. It's exactly why I come here on Wednesdays, because I know how important it is to hear the truth in this world that is so broken, and there's not many places we get to hear it. So it's a privilege to come here and speak with you guys and share what I have experienced in my life, and how that has influenced my walk, my journey to being a follower of Christ. And I haven't always been. It's been a long journey. Excuse me. Say a lot. I'm just realizing. When I was a little younger than you guys, a little bit, more young than you guys compared to the middle schoolers, I went to a small Lutheran school on the north side of Milwaukee. It was called Mount Lebanon. Learned about God, obviously. Most people were similar to me. Felt safe. Looking back, I was pretty sheltered. We went to church on Sundays. And I recall I don't recall, other than church and in school, that God was a big part of my home life. It wasn't spoken about much at home. After 5th grade, I went from, this small K through 8, 100 kids, everyone like me, to 6th through 8th grade, 900 kids I think there was about. Not many like me, just a lot of different kids there. It wasn't in my neighborhood. I didn't know anybody. I saw and heard things that I wasn't used to. It's not that where I was like a good place and I went to a bad place. It's just, when there's more people, you're going to have, different, a variety of experiences and a variety of things going on. At the time, I recall, having a lot of fear, feeling like I didn't fit in. Didn't share that with anyone at the time because that would have been, that would have looked bad. I would have, felt funny about sharing that with anyone. I didn't have adults around me that were asking me, how are things going? And at this point, no longer was God talked about at school because it was public school. We stopped going to church. But I'm pretty sure at that time, if you had asked me, hey, do you believe in God? I would have been like, sure, I believe in God. But it didn't really, and look, only in hindsight can I say this, it didn't really change anything about me. We all have a conscience, and that word made up, con is with, science is knowledge. I believe that's a God-given thing for us, our conscience. You don't have to be told that murder's bad, or, that it's not all right for me to run off the stage right now and punch somebody in the face. Those are things that are pretty natural to us. Would you agree? I mean, did someone tell you that one day, or is that just kind of it's an innate ability to know right from wrong? But that alone doesn't really do much for us. I mean, how many of you would admittedly say right now that you follow your conscience all the time? Anybody? I mean, I know what's right, and then I go do that automatically. No. So the knowledge alone isn't something that makes that much of a difference. Yeah, that dripping water is kind of annoying. It's not just me. So before I had a relationship with Christ, I would kind of describe my life dust in the wind. Dust is going to go wherever the wind takes it. There's not much choice, in that scenario. And for me, the wind was, it was being comfortable. It was trying to impress other people. It was fear, anger, depression. Those things were the things that kind of made decisions for me. I tried to avoid things I was afraid of, and if I was angry, it just controlled me. I didn't have any, looking back, ability to, really choose in those situations because, my compass was what I wanted. I mean, it wasn't all bad. I mean, I may paint a picture that things were really bad for me, but it wasn't. But it was always about me. That's one thing that was consistent. It wasn't always bad, but it was always about me. So on the next slide here, we jump into the book of John, chapter 20, and this is where obviously Jesus appears to his disciples. They are, after he has, been crucified, they are now standing in a, I think it says something about behind a locked door, afraid of the Jews. They're afraid of what may happen, to them, and which I find, kind of interesting, that people that spent 3 years walking with Jesus, seeing the miracles, hearing his teachings, and they're still capable of doubt, and fear in that moment when they're like with God. And the reason, well, I guess on the next slide, it talks about the one Thomas who was not there when he revealed himself, and Thomas was, is there a next slide? Yes, there we go. So Thomas is like even more doubtful, doubting Thomas. And, it's something that I identify with. I lived with that doubt and that wonder about who God was for a long time, and it was always just a shocking thing, or a comforting thing to know that even people that walked with Jesus, were still having doubts. It's just our, the unfortunate human side of us is always present. So in the next slide, and we'll skip that one. Sorry, I didn't pull that one out. Is a verse from Proverbs written by, anyone know who wrote most of Proverbs? So King Solomon, who was known to be the wisest, person to live, wrote Proverbs. And for anyone who doesn't read the Bible, and maybe doesn't because they started in, a book like Leviticus that you jump in and you're like, what is going on here? What difference does this make to me? Proverbs is always a good place to start. And this verse in particular was instrumental to me in my life when I was going through really difficult times. Because often we think we know things. We think, things are going to turn out a certain way. And when we're in a situation, we can feel like there's no other way out. And that's what I kind of, the lean not on your own understanding. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And, I distinctly remember at times in my life where things were bad, and this brought me so much comfort, just knowing, like, all right, man, you may be thinking one way, that it's only going to go this way, and there's no other way out of it, or what have you. And, just, puts the focus back on the Lord, trusting Him. And, this is, excuse me, I should have brought my glasses up here. So the second half, verse 6, it's, sorry, man, I'm just losing my spot here. Trusting God is not just saying, I trust God and then going on about your business. It requires, trust requires some actions on your part. And in all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. And to me, that means, in everything we're doing throughout our lives, day in and day out, put God first. And for me, the most often way I do that, and I often forget to do this, is through prayer. And just even in, some recent things going on in my life, I wasn't praying about it. I wasn't, taking it to God first. And things were difficult. And, I'm like, man, I haven't been praying. I haven't been thinking about God. I'm doing this all on my own. And by doing that, my experience of what was going on, altered drastically. So other ways besides the prayer that we can do that we can, acknowledge God, and put Him in His appropriate place first, is also, getting to know Him through the Bible. It's, asking someone and trust who is, following Christ to, for input into something that's going into your life. So in the next slide, we see here, again, the big idea: Jesus can be trusted. And we are just about done. So, show of hands, how many of you guys any of you were at the Easter services this past weekend? So just about everybody here, as expected. And you may have, if you were paying attention, seen a video about me and my family, if you recall that. So I shared, the early part of my life, which, I'm 43 years old now, and, back to middle school time, grade school, high school. I shared that portion because, at that point in my life, I made choices. There was decisions made that, if you fast forward 20 years, took me to some pretty bad places. And I would never have made that choice to go to those places. When I was making those decisions, it was operating apart from God, because I didn't know Him yet. And, it was difficult times, to say the least. That's an understatement. And, it's often through our difficulties, our struggles, that I finally became willing to trust Jesus, to be a follower of Christ. I mean, it's easy to sit here and not be willing to take that step. And it's fortunate we don't have to go through the things, the difficulties that I did. Some of us will, but it's simply a decision to put Christ, put God in the place that they deserve. So, if there's anyone here who's not sure if they have a relationship with Christ, or you don't and want to take that first step, I encourage you to reach out to a leader tonight. Talk to somebody. You may be someone who has, been on the edge of the seat and wants to make that decision, but doesn't know how or is unsure of it. I just, encourage you to, take action and do something about it, because there is no bigger, no more important decision you will ever make in this world, ever. And we're not guaranteed our next breath. Not a single one of us is guaranteed our next breath. So don't delay. If you're in that place, I really encourage you to talk to someone, ask someone about it.